Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mr. Heron for Algebra 2. Take a look, and this today should be a lot of review, honestly, because slope you've been looking at since you were in probably 5th or 6th grade, and writing linear equations. That's been a common theme, kind of going along here. So let's kind of take a look at what we're dealing with, so you remember. Grade of a road is a percent that measures the steepness of the road. It is found by dividing the amount of road rise by the corresponding horizontal distance. So that's what you're used to, and that's slope. Guys, it's rise over run. All right, it's mathematically, this would be considered the change in y over the change in x. Triangle is actually the mathematical term for for change. So that's going to be kind of the change in y over change in x, and you know it as y minus y over x minus x. So none of that changes. All that comes back. So when I take a look, so when I start taking these things, slope is the ratio of y coordinates to the change in x coordinates. So that's kind of what we talked about. Y minus y over x minus x. If it goes up and to the right, it's positive. If it's horizontal, my slope is 0. If it goes down, it's negative. If it's vertical, it's undefined. Over here, parallel lines have the same slope. Perpendicular lines have got opposite reciprocals. And that just means it multiplies to -1. So when we start looking at this, figure out the slope of A here. Well, that's just going to be 4 minus -2 over -1 minus 1. So that'll be 6 over -2. So that'll be a slope of -3. Now you're saying, but Mr. Heron, you didn't do the second y, you did the first y. Well, it doesn't matter in the long run, because if I do it the other way, -2 minus 4, 1 minus -1, that gives me -6 over 2. It still gives me -3. So it doesn't matter which one you lead with, as long as you are consistent and keep that same one going forward. So if I look at B, so if I go 2 minus 2 over 3 minus a -3, 0 over 6, doesn't matter, it's still 0. That's my slope. My slope is just going to be 0. So now taking a look here, graph a line with the given conditions. Well, 1/2 passes through 2 -1. So 2 -1 is going to be right here. Slope of 1/2 means I'm going to go up 1 over 2. So there's my next point. Now what I'll do is kind of work backwards and find out there and there, just to give myself kind of a better line to follow. So it should look something like that. For letter B, goes through, is -3, goes through -3, -4. So -3, -4 is right here. -3 means I'm going to go down 3 over 1. So it's going to kind of look like this. Bear in mind, remember guys, that you're always going to the right with these slopes. It's just a matter if you're going to go up or down. So rate of change is, it measures how much a quantity changes on average relative to another quantity, often time. So basically you're looking at how much does it change over time. That time can be days, weeks, months, years, whatever. So Lynn is tracking the progress of her plant's growth since she bought it. The growth is modeled in the table. 2, 6, 3, 7.5, 4, 9, 5, 10.5. What is the average rate of change per day? Well, that's going to be just 1.5 centimeters. What is the starting height? 6. Write a linear model to represent the height of the plant after D days. Well, this is my starting. This is kind of like the y-intercept. And the 1.5, that's my rate of change. That's like my slope. So this is actually going to be y equals 1.5x plus 6. All right, now you could technically calculate, how big was the plant on day 0. Day 0 would be like the day that, you bought it. So that would just be 4.5 and then 3, going backwards, subtracting 1.5. So maybe that might be a better starting point. So maybe for the starting height, we shouldn't say 6, we should say 3. Because that's what it would be on day 0. I think I'd like to do that. I think that would make more sense. So starting height on day 0 would be 3. All I did was work backwards, okay? On day 2, it's at 6. I figured out that it's 1.5 every single day. Well, if I can do that, I can work backwards to day 0 and figure out that on day 0, it's going to be 3. So let's take a look. Kevin's savings account balance changed from 1140 to 1450, January to April. So that's month 1 to month 4. So let's take a look here. So I'll take 1450 minus 1140 over 4th month minus 1st month. And let's see what we got. That's going to be $310 over 3 months. So a little division, and I get that to be about $103.33. So that's going to be what my average rate of change per month is. He's putting away a little over $100 each month. So now, slope-intercept is probably the one you guys are most familiar with, probably the one you've seen the most. Y equals mx plus b. So given a slope and a point, it's easy. You just put it into point slope form. That one might be a little bit tougher. If you're given 2 points, figure out the slope, and then put that into point slope form, and then kind of solve it. So if I look at number 5, here's kind of what I'm doing. So I've got a slope here. They want it in slope-intercept form. Well, I'm going to start off in point slope form. So I'm going to take y minus my y value, 1, negative 3 halves, slope minus my x value here. So it's going to be y minus 1, x plus 4. So then do 2 things. Distribute, add 1. So if I do that, negative 3 halves x, and that's going to be minus 6 plus 1. All right, that's what happens when I distribute it. So that's going to be y equals negative 3 halves x minus 5. There's my slope-intercept form right there. Now, if I look at number 6, change up colors here. You're given 2 points, so that means I got to do a little bit of work ahead of time. I have actually got to figure out a slope here. So if I take 5 minus 4 over negative 4 minus a negative 1, I get 1 over, looks like negative 3. So that's what I get there. So now take this slope, take one of these points, I don't care which one, whichever one looks easier to you, and go back to point slope form here. Put it in there, and let's do a little algebra here to figure this out. So I'm going to go y minus 4 equals negative 1/3 x minus a negative 1. So y minus 4 equals 1/3, negative 1/3 x plus 1. So that's going to be minus 1/3. And if I add 4, y equals negative 1/3 x plus 3 2/3. There's my answer. Okay, but look, all I did, figure out the slope, substitute it into point slope form, do some algebra, and get it so into slope-intercept form. So I've got to do two things to get from point slope form back into slope-intercept form. Basically distribute and then get rid of the y value to make y by itself. So if I look here, write an equation in slope-intercept form for the line that is parallel to 3x plus 1 and passes through 2, 3. Parallel is easy. Parallel just means I take this exact same slope. So the slope I want is 3. That's an m, believe it or not. So when I substitute this in, y minus 3, 3, x minus 2. Okay, again, this goes here, this goes here. So y minus 3 equals 3x minus 6. Add 3 to both sides, 3x minus 3. There's my equation. Thank you for playing. We're good. Now, as a salesperson, Eric is paid a daily salary plus commission. When his sales are $1,000, he makes $100. When his sales are $14,000, he makes $120. Write a linear model to model this equation. So, write a linear equation to model this situation. So let's figure out slope first. So if I take 1,400, well, let me back up. let me back up. So when it's $1,000, he makes $100. When it's $1,400, he makes $120. So those are my 2 points. Let's do some work here. So I get 120 minus 100, 1,400 minus 1,000. So that's going to be 20 over 400. So that's going to be 1 over 20, which as a decimal, for those of you guys that want to do that, go that route, would be 0.05. So now take that and one of the points, I'm looking at that point saying that's got to be pretty easy. So I go y minus 100. Oops. I screwed that up. Let me back up. Y minus 100 equals 0.05 x minus 1,000. So now if I distribute this, 0.05x minus 50. So add 100, add 100. Y equals 0.05x plus 50. There's my equation to represent that. Now, kind of taking this step by step. Here's the linear equation given the following ordered pairs. So start off slope, y minus y, x minus x, so 9 minus negative 3, 5 minus 7. Or if I flip it around, I'll get the same answer, that's fine. So that's going to be 6 over negative 2, so my slope is negative 3. Now pick one of the points, and if that's got slightly smaller numbers, this has got all positives, it's entirely up to you. It's 6 one, half a dozen the other. So I'm going to go this route. I'm going to take 5 and 9. Now, technically, this is a linear equation right here. This is point-slope form. Technically, it's a linear equation. But just for good practice, we're going to figure out what it's going to be all the way through. So negative 3x plus 15, y minus 9. So add 9, y equals negative 3x plus 24. There's my linear equation, okay? So slope, point slope, little algebra, slope intercept. Boom. All right, so linear equation going through there, parallel to that. So parallel means I want that same slope. So my slope is going to be negative 1/3. So I've got y minus a y value, slope x minus the x value. That's y plus 1 equals negative 1/3 x plus 2. Subtract 1, subtract 1. So y is going to be equal to negative 1/3 x plus 1. Bam. All right, last one here. Let's do this one. Perpendicular to the line, 2x minus 5y. So we got to do a little work ahead of time. This problem is going to take a little bit. So I want to subtract 2x, subtract 2x. All I'm doing is getting this into slope-intercept form, so I can recognize that the slope of this line is 2/5. But that means that the slope that I want is not 2/5. The slope that I want is going to be negative 5/2. All right, so I want perpendicular to the line. So I'm going to do that point and that slope. So I want y minus 7 equals negative 5/2 x plus 4. Okay, so now distribute this, distribute this. And then this is going to be minus 10. 2.5 times 4 is going to be 10. So add 7, y equals negative 5/2 x minus 3. So I don't, if that's a little blocked, I'll rewrite it. Y equals -5 over 2x minus 3. There's my answer. All right. Hopefully you guys have seen this. You recognize this a little bit. Come talk to me with questions and just make sure you kind of got everything remembered correctly. Thank you very much.